What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online, you're now listening to the UK's only alternative late-night talk show, and I'm Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Joseph Emmett, who is the author of Sleep Better with Mindfulness Meditation, Buddha's Book of Stress Reduction, and Songs for the Practice of Mindfulness Meditation. These three books all have forewords by Thich Nhat Hanh. His newest book is Buddha's Book of Meditation Mindfulness Practices for a Quieter Mind, Self-Awareness and Healthy Living. His book on sleep has won an award as the best self-help book of the year in 2012 and has been translated into 9 languages. In 1997, Joseph started the Mindfulness Meditation Center because he had found the practice of mindfulness very helpful in his own life. Joseph has trained several thousand people in mindfulness practices in large and small groups for organizations in private sessions. Joseph holds a doctorate in music from Boston University and has been certified in reality therapy counseling. Joseph Emmett, welcome to the show.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's a pleasure to have you on. Now, just for the audience, whereabouts are you based?
I live in Montreal, in the French-speaking province of Quebec of Canada, and just outside of Montreal, in a nice little community here, small town. And I've been living here for the last 25 years and feel very much at home.
Well, that's fantastic. And, you know, I've always had, well, I feel like a deep connection to the sort of Buddhist tradition. I'm sure somewhere along the lines I had a past life there. So, so this is going to be an interesting interview for myself as well. Now, just to begin with, I mean, what was your sort of upbringing as well? I mean, how did you get into the sort of Buddhist tradition as well? I mean, what was your initial background as well?
Oh, I have dabbled in meditation since I was in my early 20s. I think it started with yoga. There's short meditation sessions at the end of many yoga classes. And then I was very much taken by Indian spirituality. And then I had a brush with the Sufis, Pivilayat. And then by chance, I happened to read something by a Buddhist master. I think it was Philip Kaplow's book. And I started looking into it. And then I went to a retreat in Hawaii with Roshi Robert Aitken. Have you heard of him? He's he's passed away now.
Right.
An organization called the Diamond Sangha, a wonderful, wonderful person. And then I ended up with Thich Nhat Hanh, which I felt was my home. And I've been with him ever since.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, because obviously, he's a Zen master. And just for the audience at home, what is a Zen master as well?
He's a Zen master, but his his specialty is combining different traditions of Zen. Like there's the Vipassana tradition, there's the Zen tradition, and another tradition relatively unknown in the West, which is the Pure Land tradition, which is the dominant Buddhist practice form in China and Japan. And he combines these forms very skillfully, and I think for me, this is part of his message.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, how would you sum up the sort of Buddhist tradition as well? How could you sort of quickly tell the audience just a bit about what it means to say that you're a Buddhist and that you practice that the ideology of it in a sense?
Well, let me start by quoting Thich Nhat Hanh. He says, "Don't be a Buddhist, be a Buddha." And he said that to a person who came to a retreat, a young person, and then went back home to living with his parents and started telling his parents what to do. And he was being a Buddhist. Whereas being a Buddha is to live, at least in your mind, in your heart, like the Buddha, with a spacious mind, an accepting heart. Do you see the difference there between being a Buddhist and being a Buddha? I try to practice being a Buddha more than being a Buddhist. And what it means is, first of all, being a gardener, practicing going toward positivity, toward all that is cultivating positive emotions in your heart, emotions of compassion, love, contentment, gratitude. And this is one part. The other part is being in the moment, simply. Because beauty is all around us. All you have to do, especially in this beautiful season, is look around the trees, the flowers, the people, the men and women, children, animals, squirrels, birds. So being in the moment allows us to be in touch with the beauty of the world, rather than being in your thoughts, which might be about regret, might be about the future, some sort of anxiety, whatever. So those two things are foremost in my mind: being in the moment and cultivating positive emotions.
Does that mean, do you think, that we ignore our negative emotions? I mean, do you think they're there to heal us in any sense?
Oh, the negative emotions are, of course, there for a purpose. I mean, if I didn't have any fear, I might just walk into the traffic on the highway and get mowed down. Uh, I can assure you that fear has kept me alive, and so there's a certain amount of anxiety. I mean, all the exams I passed. Thank God I had some anxiety the day before, and I studied for them. So those emotions are not our enemy. The question is, who is in charge? If fear and anxiety are in charge and they dominate your life, then you're in trouble. But the whole idea is accepting and not trying to push away. Because the more you push away or run away from emotions, the more they begin to be bigger in your life. I mean, you can run away from a bear because the bear is outside of you. But the emotions are in you. When you run, they run with you. If you run fast, they also run fast. There's no way of getting away from them.
Yeah, and as you've said there, it's all about being in the moment, because when you step outside of the moment, whether it be stepping back into the past or trying to see the future and what may be in the whatever may scare you, or whatever fears you may be looking at by projecting into the future, it really doesn't do us much good sometimes, does it, to step too far out of present moment? Because would you say that all that matters really is right now, this moment between myself and you?
Yes, there is a wonderful, wonderful puzzle in a Tolstoy story. The puzzle is, who is the most important person in the world? Who is the most important person in the world? And the answer is the person you're with right now. I like that very much, because people try to come up with answers like Obama or whatever.
Yeah, the person I'm with right now. If only a lot of us, some of the audience watching this and myself, embrace that all the time. It's we forget about it sometimes, don't we? Just the most simplest things, we forget about these things, and then we get ourselves into some terrible messes, don't we?
Yes, and you hit the nail right there when you mentioned forget. The etymology of the word mindfulness has to do with remembering, keeping in mind, mindful that I am of a certain age, I don't jump too high, whatever. So remembering, keeping in mind has a lot to do with it, because if your wisdom is somewhere on the shelf there, it's not much use to you right now. Dalai Lama defines mindfulness as bringing all your wisdom, your learning, to this moment and to every moment. So, yes, forgetfulness, remembering, those are important concepts.
And having a quiet mind, in a sense, a peaceful mind, and and we'll go into mindfulness practice as well. But just having that peaceful mind, if we could just, in this moment, try to imagine what that was like with no noise in our head. Some would say it's an impossible achievement, yet others who have achieved it would say it was there all the time.
Yes. Well, the noise, it's certainly possible to quiet it down, and that's part of Vipassana meditation. The first part is calming the mind, sometimes called stopping, but that gives the wrong impression because we cannot really stop thinking completely. I mean, it'll happen when we die, but even when we're asleep, it continues in the form of dreams and so on. Thich Nhat Hanh has a different take on stopping. He says, stop running. And his idea is that we're always running. Like in football, you're running after a ball. In hockey, you're skating after a puck. So he says that we have a tendency to put something before us and then to run after it. That's his take on running. But one way or the other, yes, calming the mind, stopping, in some sense, is a very important prelude to deeper states of meditation.
Well, was there a point in your life, would you say, where you had quite a noisy mind? And if you can compare, or even if you could think back to that time, the person that you may have been to the person you are now, how have you changed with embracing mindfulness practice?
Well, yes, noisy mind, and also I would say a confused mind. In other words, there were a lot of leftover thoughts from my childhood, not really sorted out. It was a bit of a jumble. I think as a result of my mindfulness practice, my mind is a little clearer, a little more in order. I know what I think, I know what I feel, I think I know what I want, and I think those are important benefits.
Yeah, yeah. And embracing mindfulness practice, do you think it allows us to attract into our lives things that we want to experience, whether it be monetary values, or whether it be partner, someone that we're looking for in a partner, or whatever it may be that we want to attract into our life, maybe more joy? Embracing mindfulness practice can help us, achieve these things.
Indirectly, yes. Mention elements like joy, mental states. Yes, those are part of the practice. I mean, what is the Buddha doing? You see the Buddha on the altar, on the internet, in books, in postcards. What is he doing? He is practicing positivity. That's one interpretation of what he's doing. He is cultivating his mind. He's a gardener. He's gardening in his mind. And this is a very a big part of Thich Nhat Hanh's practice. He calls it watering positive seeds. Like in your garden, you water and you nourish the seeds of, I don't know, dahlias, roses, pretty sweet smelling things. You don't water the seeds of poison ivy and crabgrass and thistles, And the same thing in the mind. You can water the roses of love, the dahlias of joy, the irises of contentment. And how do you water them? By bringing them often to mind, by going there, actually. A very favorite practice of positive psychologists like Martin Seligman is think of some wonderful things that you're grateful for at the end of the day before you go to sleep. Now, that is exactly what Thich Nhat Hanh calls watering the seeds of gratitude. And as you do that, Martin Seligman says somewhere that he's done this for 30 years now. And as you keep doing that, to continue the metaphor, the seeds of gratitude grow in your mind. I mean, it's obvious. If you keep, say, fussing and fuming in anger, why did she do that to me? How could she do that? She's such a mean person. If you keep doing that, then you're watering the seeds of anger, and anger grows in your mind. And if you do the gratitude practice, then gratitude grows in your mind. So to some extent, we really are in charge of what our mental state is like.
So true, so true what you say. We really are, and no matter what is going on around us, no matter if we feel that our lives are falling to bits or have gone to a level that we thought we would never go to, as in maybe, we've lost a lot of valuables that we would hold so dearly onto, or someone in our life has gone, whether it be through relationship breakup or a death in the family, we still have to be grateful that we are here, that we are we have the people around us that we do, that we have whatever it may be, the clothes on our back that we do. These may sound to some people as though, well, I could have so much more, but just to be present in the moment now and grateful and loving towards your life, I think it says a lot to water in those seeds, does it not?
Yes, definitely. And the idea is to make a practice of it, to do it every day. Because if psychologists make a difference between mental states and mental traits. Mental traits are also called dispositions. Like you say, he's a kind person, as opposed to he had a momentary fit of kindness. You know what I mean? He's a kind person, that's a trait. If you have a momentary excessive kindness, that is a mental state. So to turn mental states into mental traits, you need to practice them.
And how would you practice that? I mean, would it be, for example, waking up per day, and as soon as you wake up, as some people do, you just say, thank you for everything that I have in this moment right now. Thank you.
Thich Nhat Hanh is a little verse. Waking up this morning, I see the blue sky. I join my hands in thankfulness for the many marvels of life. So here's a wake-up verse.
That's very beautiful. Thank you for that. And when you practice this over and over again, like anything, what would you kind of see the results to be? In a sense, would it just be more peace within your life, peace at where you're at, for example?
Well, I just described positivity meditation as, of course, the result of practicing positive states of mind, bringing things that you're grateful for, being contentment. What makes you content? What brings you joy? Bringing those things to mind every day as a practice makes those emotions grow. So this particular exercise makes positive emotions grow in your heart. And positivity has a broadening effect. People in a positive frame of mind, for example, if you show them a photograph, they will notice more things in the background. And that's why a lot of people are doing corporate trainings in positivity, because, I mean, imagine you're launching a sales campaign, and in a positive state of mind, you'd see more possibilities, more ways of spreading the message. Whereas negativity focuses the mind. I mean, imagine a car coming at you dangerously. At that moment, what will keep you alive is narrowing your focus very drastically to you and that car. You don't want the broadening effect of positivity at all. So, once more, these emotions all have their place, and negative emotions are not necessarily your enemy, except when they take over.
Yes, 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 yes. Some people say, though, that by going into the darkness sometimes, is obviously is a way to heal. And sometimes you have to get to a very low point sometimes to be able to go back up. If you've suffered from depression, for example, to be able to go back up and then, on that journey of going back up, it's a journey of healing any of the issues that brought you down, for example. What do you think of that?
Well, there are two ways of looking at it. One is what the Buddhist tradition says, that it's through suffering that you learn about happiness, because suffering and happiness are like two sides of the same coin. If you had never suffered, you would not know what it is to be without suffering. So, yes, in a sense, to have experienced suffering makes it possible for you to relate to other people who suffer, and so on, and to relate to your own suffering.
Yes.
Yeah. The other side is, at the bottom of the well, there is really nothing but darkness. Kierkegaard has sometimes talked about this, that this idea of, if I go to the bottom of the darkness, I'll find some light there. Not necessarily. You can just keep going and going and going. Sometimes people go into psychoanalysis in a similar frame of mind, that when they discover something, the cause of their happiness, that everything will be fine. Well, even after you discover the cause of your unhappiness, if there was just one cause, you must still find happiness here and now, not somewhere else. You must still be present in the here and now. You must still practice positivity. So finding the cause of your unhappiness is one thing. Finding happiness here and now is another thing. And perhaps they're related, but the Buddhist practice is very precious, one way or the other.
Yes. Well, you look at the people in the slums, for example, in India, who have nothing, yet they are happy.
Yeah.
I know people that have been there and met these people, and they've always said to me, they may not have a lot, but the majority of them they bumped into were happy. So it just goes to show you don't need some of the things that we think we need to make us happy.
Yes. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about an experience when he was going from India to Bangladesh, crossing the frontier, and the clerk took his passport and went into the inside room, and he was wondering what he was doing in there, and then he heard some singing. And he was fascinated. He couldn't imagine an American customs clerk, singing to himself in there. Yes, you're quite right. It's a matter of attitude, isn't it? It's a matter of attitude to a great extent.
It is. It really is. And, obviously, we have limited time here, so I'm so grateful for this time with yourself. Just moving on a bit, meditation now, that's what the basis of the Buddhist book of meditation is. Let's get to that as well. Your book's just coming up on the screen as well as we talk, and I've discussed the book. How important is meditation as a part of the practice per day, would you say?
It depends on how you go about it. I recommend a period of meditation every day, but a short period, maybe 15, 20 minutes. I recommend also taking meditation breaks during the day, just like you take coffee breaks, because stress keeps mounting during the day because people keep throwing curveballs at you. Like, if it's not your work situation, it's your children, your partner, whatever. And you have to sort of deflate it so that you can come back rather than keep going up and up in your stress level. That's when stress becomes problematic, when it becomes chronic, and when it sort of keeps going. So in that book, there are 12 mindfulness songs, which are available for free download on my website, which is mindfulnessmeditationcenter.org. Click on books and then on Buddha's Book of Meditation. They're available for free download. Of course, buying the book would give you more context and sort of give you some hints about how to use them, but the songs are there, free. I recommend finding one or two, download them on your phone, and during the day, after lunch, or when you have a break, sit outside in the sun or go for a walk, put the earbuds on, listen to the song and hum along with it or sing along with it. And within 5 minutes, you will be back in touch with the meditative space that you experienced during your meditation in the morning. Let's face it, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, your morning meditation is a dim memory. You need to come back to it for it to have any effect on your daily life and your day-to-day life.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. The one thing I don't do is I don't meditate enough, if at all. And I remember someone like Oprah saying that, how can you call yourself spiritual if you don't meditate? And I think it's true because it's in some respects because it's giving time back to yourself, isn't it?
Yes, one of my teachers defined it as becoming intimate with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a beginner then, what would you recommend for a beginner? How should they practice that meditation? I mean, what's the best way to start that routine?
I would start with a guided meditation. In the same spot in the website, mindfulnessmeditationcenter.org, clicking on books and then on Buddha's Book of Meditation, there are 3 guided meditations also available for free download. Start with a guided meditation because when you're a beginner and you sit, you tend to ruminate instead of meditate. And the guided meditation, with giving you an instruction every minute or so, keeps you on track. The other suggestion I would have is read an inspiring book before you meditate. Read just one page or a few paragraphs. And I would recommend any book by Thich Nhat Hanh, because your mind is thinking of your daily things like the next person you're going to interview, what you have to buy when you on your way home, maybe pick up the kids, or this, why did he say that, blah, blah. And when you sit to meditate, those thoughts continue in your head. Whereas if you read a book, just a page, a few paragraphs, or a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, it will bring your mind to the vicinity of meditation. And then all you have to do is just hop in. And a mindfulness song also does the same thing. You can listen to a song before you sit. It focuses the mind.
Right. And if you feel a bit sleepy, for example, when doing the meditation, that's quite a normal part of the process when you probably first start out, maybe even when you have been doing it for a while as well.
Well, Buddha, sleepiness and restlessness, drowsiness and restlessness are two of the hindrances to meditation. And the funny thing is, you perhaps are prone to sleepiness when you meditate, but there are an equal number of people who are prone to restlessness. In every group, I ask, somebody says, I feel sleepy, what should I do? And I ask, is there anybody who feels restless? Somebody else raises their hand. They just keep fidgeting, they can't stop. So I'm saying this to tell you that not everybody is like that. It's just a hindrance that some people get. In case of sleepiness, sit up straight. Sit up in a meditation pose. If you sit like this or lie down, your brain scans the body and the brain says, oh, we're just lying down. Maybe we're getting ready to sleep, and provides you with the right chemicals, endorphins, or whatever, to facilitate that. Whereas if you sit in a meditation pose, the brain scans the body and says, we're very vigilant. Something interesting is happening. So it provides the chemicals to keep you awake and attentive.
Right.
Your posture has something to do with it.
And when you meditate, for some people who are highly attuned, shall we say, is it possible for them to connect with higher planes of reality?
Higher planes of reality, what would that be?
The spiritual planes, with other spiritual guides, perhaps, when we go into some deep meditations.
You know, up until recently, I did not hear Thich Nhat Hanh use that word, spiritual. The Buddha invented the word or the expression body-mind as one word 26 centuries ago. And in the Buddhist tradition, body and mind are not separate. They are one entity, parts of one entity. And so when you talk about spiritual in that way, I tend to think that you separate the two. There are traditions like that. Indian spirituality, there are some traditions that say, oh, the body is not important, it's the spiritual things that matter. Well, I want to say, if the body is not important, why don't you try to live without it?
Well, yeah, that is also very true.
And see how you do.
But though some people, for example, people like I don't know if you ever heard of the great sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce.
Yes, I have,
Yeah.
and I've read a little bit, but don't ask me to quote him right now.
No, but the idea that when he went into a deep meditation, a deep trance, he was able to connect with, with a realm of a potential realm that we go to when we pass on, or a potential place where he was able to bring back lost information, and also, as he was doing at the time back in the 40s, giving people cures on problems that they were coming to him with, medical cures. But also he brought in a lot of information about the nature of reality as well. And there's been other people like him that go into these higher states of deep, whatever you may want to call them, but they go to a deep connective place that's almost connecting to their higher self. Have you heard of that?
Yes, some Zen masters use the term makyo, which is sort of, I think, a way of calling them an illusion of some kind. And I'm aware of some Tibetan traditions that describe what happens after death, like you go through a long corridor, then you see a light and you turn right, and then take a sharp left turn, and so on. I'm not a fan of that sort of thing. I'm more interested about the moment of here and now. I'm more interested in happiness, finding happiness here and now. all the descriptions of paradise you find in spiritual books, the Bible, Dante's Divine Comedy, in Greek mythology, all of them come from our experience here on earth. Nobody has been on a cruise to paradise and brought back photographs. So the question is finding paradise here. And this is what the tradition is most interested in, rather than supernatural types of knowledge.
Absolutely. My curiosity is always just, just with the case of the meditation, just when some people meditate, they can go to a different state of meditation than others. So, and it's those levels that are potential that they can go to, and the information that they can bring back that can be of help in the moment now. That was kind of my point on that. So interesting to hear your opinion on it. And with Buddhism, for example, it's always been very much sort of in the Asian region. Why is that? Do you think that it never really made it over here in Europe as big as it was in Asia, for example? With the temples and everything else.
Well, Buddhism is part of American culture now. According to a latest statistic, 20 million Americans practice or have practiced some form of mindfulness. It's just the trappings, the religious trappings are not always there. They're not always practiced in a temple. Mindfulness is practiced in mindfulness centers, in psychologists' offices, in hospital settings. I offer mindfulness at one of the big hospitals here for cancer patients. And I offer stress reduction courses. They're all based on the Buddhist tradition, and the Buddha is there somewhere in some corner of the room. So Buddhism has made it over here, over there too, I'm sure.
Oh yes, absolutely. Obviously, it's made it. That there are lots of practicing Buddhists, people that are practicing Buddhism. But no, what I'm, I've been to Asia, and I just adored the temples, the Buddhist temples over there. It was just an amazing experience to be near so many and to get to visit so many. And obviously you just don't see that in England. There's not Buddhist temples as there are over in Asia, where where it was initially formed, the first few Buddhists.
Yeah, those would be ethnic Buddhists who are more likely to create temples. And here in Montreal, there is Korean Buddhist, Japanese Buddhist, Cambodian Buddhist temples, Chinese Buddhist temples. The ethnic Buddhists practice with all the trappings in their original languages, the original chants. The Westerners practice Buddhism in a slightly different way, what I might call applied Buddhism. You want to apply it to your life. If you have suffered a loss, if you're suffering in some way, if you're anxious, if you're stressed, if you can't sleep, apply Buddhism to your life to make your relationship more beautiful. So we tend to go to the heart of the matter, applied Buddhism. And Thich Nhat Hanh has once said, if Buddhism is not applied, it's not Buddhism. He sort of puts a question mark on some of the formal Eastern ways of practicing Buddhism by saying that. I have a Buddha. I have two Buddhas, one in two different places, and I meditate with a Buddha, and I I share to some extent your feelings about the trappings of Buddhism, but I think one needs to go beyond the trappings. It's the Buddha inside that matters.
Yeah.
Historical Buddha lived 26 centuries ago, and he is not that much a concern to us as a teacher, but the Buddha inside is our light of consciousness, is our mindfulness, is what matters to us.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And obviously by practicing mindfulness as well, and through reading your book, people who suffer from, like we've mentioned this before a little bit, anger issues, it's a way to calm themselves, isn't it? Because there are, it can help to alleviate the suffering when it comes to anger as well. Can it not?
Yes, in fact, Thich Nhat Hanh has a whole book on that subject. It's yes, anger is a big issue because it can destroy relationships, it can make you unhappy, and so on. There are two suggestions about anger. One is a long-term suggestion, which is filling your heart with positive feelings, filling your heart with love and compassion. The person you're angry at who did something bad to you, probably suffering himself, is probably having a bad hair day. She is probably having a bad hair day. I don't know. Guys, anyway, I don't have bad hair days anymore, but maybe you do. So connecting to the person on that basis, what can I do? What would you need from me? What can I do to make it better for you? And that really diffuses the anger right away. But if you get caught up in the anger and you start yelling at him, the anger just escalates. So the long range is to fill your heart with compassion, and the short range is try to find the need behind the emotion. Yes.
And do you think, embracing mindfulness as well can help us? And when we talk about mindfulness, obviously we're talking about, meditation as well. But do you think by embracing the idea of mindfulness, we can alleviate things like dependency on alcohol or any other substances as well? It can help you, come from a clean perspective in a sense.
Oh yes, you will find a number of books on recovery, 12-step recovery with Buddhism on the internet, and some of them are very beautifully done. Yes, because Buddha talked about craving a lot, and dependency has something to do with craving, a lot to do with craving. And mindfulness is a big part of the equation, definitely.
And just for myself as well, just a bit of curiosity here as well. With Buddhism, where does God fit into Buddhism in a sense?
Where does what?
Where does God fit into Buddhism in a sense?
Well, there is no God to speak of in the Buddhist tradition, and it's very interesting. The other day I was walking around a very beautiful area close to my home. There's a Catholic church complex. There is an old people's home. There is a school. There's a clinic. There's a residence for monastics. There's the church. There's the pastor's place. And it was very beautiful. But the whole thing is about trying to figure out what God wants us to do, what is the will of God, how to please God, how to go about this. Whereas Buddhism looks at it from the point of view of what do we humans need? not so much what God wants from us, but what do we need to be happy? It's a different approach and a different attitude. And in a sense, I find it more fruitful because, first of all, it's hard to know God's will, very hard to know God's will. And some people, the prophets, sometimes they have had self-serving motives and self-serving results, and also cultural results. What they thought was God's will was the way they thought things should go, and their interpretation of God's will. It's a very slippery slope. Whereas Buddhism tries to go inside and tries to find out what is the basis of suffering, how to make yourself happy, how to go from suffering to happiness. This is a big, big focus of Buddhism, which I like.
Absolutely, and if you could give any points yourself from the amazing journey that you've been on in your life, what would you say are some of the main key parts for yourself in finding balance, happiness, and health in a sense?
Happiness and health. Yes. I think it's different for many people. Once in a group, in a stress management group, I sometimes ask, what is the big source of stress in your life? There was a retired optometrist, and he said, well, when I was working, I felt useful. People came to me with their problems, and I solved their problems, and I felt happy about it. I was useful. Now I get up, there's a whole day in front of me with nothing to do. It's very stressful. And next to him was a young lawyer, a 36-year-old woman. She said, oh, I have so much to do. The phone keeps ringing. I have to prepare court appearances. I have to go to court, prepare cases, and then I write briefs, and then I come home. My 2 girls jump on me, and then my husband wants something from me. It never ends. And the 2 of them look at each other like, do you come from the same planet that I do? So this balance you mentioned is different for each of us, and we have to find it contextually in our own lives. I think some of the hints would be, don't overcrowd yourself. Leave time to enjoy what you're doing. And this idea of running after the ball, the cage turns because the squirrel is running. So the balance between running and not running is different for each of us.
Would you say then, Joseph, is one of is the overriding message of your book of mindfulness practice? Would you say?
Overriding message,
or the most important message?
For me personally, it's leading a creative and inspired life. I'm writing books, I write poetry, I write songs, and I'm always stuck. The reason is because I keep writing until I'm stuck. So I'm always stuck when I stop. And meditation helps me move forward by calming the surface thoughts. The surface thoughts are very busy and they crowd out anything that wants to come from a deeper place. Finding water, finding inspiration down there. This is an important source for me. For many other people, it is dealing with stress. I would say it's a very big issue for many people. And stress has to do with your attitude. Uh, you mentioned people in poorer countries who have nothing and they are very happy, you know? So it has a lot to do with your attitude. So, and changing the attitude is a meditation kind of thing. A meditation can help you do that. Those are the two big issues. And whatever the problem is, Einstein said that you can't solve a problem in the same state of mind that created the problem in the first place. Whether the problem is a relationship problem, a work-related issue, we tend to solve it just like Einstein said not to do, but leave it all behind and go to a deeper place and sit for a while. And a different kind of solution may come to you. And that's what I mean by an inspired life. Now, you can't force that. Inspiration you can't force. What you can do is you can create the conditions for inspiration to arise. That's all you can do. Give it a chance, in other words. So that's another very big, valuable contribution that meditation can make to our lives.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Right, well, just before we end the interview, shall we practice a bit of mindfulness meditation, in a sense, to show the audience just how simple it can be just to go into that state? And how would you normally do it? Because I know you've got a bell there as well.
Yes, I brought a bell. Thich Nhat Hanh starts with 3 sounds of the bell. And he made clear one day that the first sound means come back to your breath. From your thoughts, come back to observing the breath. The second bell means focus on the sensations coming from your body. That's the basis of what is known as the body scan. Sensations are different from thoughts. Sensations are wordless. If you hear words, they're coming from the brain, not from your body. And the third bell is to find a measure of contentment here and now. Try that with the 3 bells. Breathing in, breathing out. You can visualize a child on a swing in the park on a sunny day. The swing goes up, momentary pause, comes down, goes back up again rhythmically. When I breathe, my abdomen goes up and back down, like a child on a swing. I enjoy the rhythmic movement of my breathing. As my breath becomes more even and more rhythmic, my mind also becomes calmer. Listen to your body. If you find tension anywhere, let go. Your shoulders, face muscles, knees. That's a very short meditation, but that's how a guided meditation goes. Depending on my audience, the pauses between the instructions can be longer, or if they are with very young children, they can be very short because their concentration span is shorter. And then this is the first stage, calming the mind or stopping or relaxing the mind. Perhaps you notice we both feel more relaxed right now. and then the second stage has more to do with actually listening to yourself and becoming more intimate with yourself.
Right. Well, thank you so much for just sharing that with us there. That was very special. I really appreciate that, and I love the bell there as well, the chime. That's really really lovely. Well, I'd just like to say, Joseph Emmett, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. And there's more in Buddha's Book of Meditation, and I hope you enjoy the book.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.